Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my chaos. Thank you. Okay. Sorry for the craziness. Okay, then I will call this meeting to order. I know Asma is not coming. So that she had asked me if I could act as chair once again. She said she should be back next week. So hopefully that will be the case. I think this is probably our last meeting unless we have reason to call another one. It's our last scheduled meeting before the election. So I will say that it's been nice working with all of you, and we will see where that goes. Hopefully I will be back. I don't know if anyone else on the Linda's up for election too, but I don't think it's contested. So
Yay.
you'll be back.
I'm a shoo-in. I've got it easy.
Yay. Oh, let me just say, Malia, I thought you did a great job at last night's candidate night.
Oh, thank you.
You did a very good job.
I appreciate that. It's up online now. I just discovered, though I can't print the link to it, but whatever. It's one of those days. So thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll be back with you all. But let's see what we can get done. Well, I'm sorry. Is there a question? Sorry. I heard an echo.
Yeah, well, we just have Matt is trying to log in, but he said he's in the waiting room. And I don't know what that means. Randy, oh, you know what, Randy? We didn't transfer. Okay.
We didn't transfer hosts, so no one can see.
Yeah, so she's texting me now, so.
Okay. Oh, so Matt is here. Okay.
Well,
so,
he's not here yet. We're trying to get him.
While he's trying to come in, can we get the minutes done and then we'll be ready for his part? I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, first of all, I need to pause for a moment. I will record that, but is anyone taking notes? I did not ask. Oh, you are. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure before we got too far ahead. So did you get the motion in a second? Okay. Okay. Is there any discussion? Corrections discussion. Okay. Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. I'll just go in order of my screen. Sorry. Okay. I heard an echo again. I'm sorry. That must be Randy talking to. Okay. Got it. Okay. So we will take a vote on approval of the minutes of April 14th. Brett?
Beardmore, yes.
Linda Longbalil?
Yes. Linda,
Laura?
Kirschenbaum, yes.
Linda Woodland?
Woodland, yes.
Krista?
Bennett, yes.
And Gustafson, yes. Great. The next item is our non-discrimination policy, which is why Attorney McAvoy was coming. So I don't know if he is
coming. If you can give me a minute, I'm just working on the behind the scenes to get him on.
Okay, we'll take a minute. That actually gives people a minute to read them. Necessary. They were linked in the agenda. So we can refresh our memory of kind of where we left things. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I said, are we still working on Matt? Okay, no worries. We'll give him another minute. Sorry, guys.
Is Ed, so he's saying that he's in a waiting room, but there's no waiting room in Google, is there, on a Google Meet?
No, I mean it could be just like a access on his end,
There-
like allow
There
and
is
allow.
actually, I mean, I don't know how to access it, but I know I got that message because my computer opened up with my other ID first. And it said you're in the waiting room because someone can grant you permission to get in. Or
Okay,
you can just send him the direct invitation. Someone can do that and then he'll be on the invite list and won't have to deal with that.
how do you say that one more time? Oh, getting sent to Matt? Well, I sent him the direct link, like, I just resent it, like, again twice, but for some reason, it's saying his email's coming up as a Gmail, but it's saying he's in the waiting room.
I think sometimes if the owner isn't the first one to start the meeting, that we run into this problem. I know, I mean, during remote, we would all just kind of close down the link and start it over. I don't know if we can do that in a public meeting. But that was usually the teacher's approach to fixing it.
Yeah. Ed,
I
what do you
mean,
think? What do you advise? Well,
Randy is
no, but
Randy is with us.
Here she
yeah,
is.
he's transferred it to me now. Although I have to accept ownership. Wait a minute. Would that help if I do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Then you
Okay.
should be able to see the waiting room.
Yeah, but I would think Randy also would have been able to, and she's been on looking.
And I don't see the
Hello.
Oh, there he is. He called it.
Hi.
I'm calling. I don't know what's going on. I've been in the waiting room for 25 minutes.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know that. I'm
sorry.
sorry. I know, and you've been texting, and we've been trying to troubleshoot, but
Yeah, I got off, went to the link that Randy sent. That didn't work. Then I went to the link that you sent, and
Didn't
I think I'm still in the waiting room right now. I am.
Oh
And I
dear.
don't-
Oh,
and I guess
well,
we just don't know how to. I don't know how to let someone in on a waiting room. I don't see anything. And neither does Ed, and he's our tech guy. So I don't know. Should we? So one option could be we could all log off and log back in again. So if
Can
people
we
want-
move for a recess? I don't know if we have to do that officially because it's a public meeting. So I'll make a motion to
Yeah.
take a 2-minute recess.
sure. We'll do that. And then we'll
Second.
reconvene.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, we have to vote on it, I think. So,
Okay.
Brett?
Yeah, I'll move that motion.
Well, we have a motion and a second. So is there any discussion?
No.
No. Okay, then we will take a quick vote. Brett?
Beardmore, yes.
Linda Longbelial?
Long will, yes.
Laura?
Yeah, so all we're doing is getting out and then coming back in.
Yes.
Just give
Okay.
a couple minutes
Yep.
for
Sure.
Randy or for Jane to be back on first as
Got
the
it.
new owner.
Okay, sure.
Yes, good idea.
Linda Woodland?
Woodland, yes.
Krista? I think you said yes. Are you muted?
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's one of these days. Okay. And I've said yes. So now we will take it's 7:17. So we'll aim for 7:20. Is that good, Jane?
Yeah.
Seven-
You
Yes.
know what?
I'll
Let
come
me
back.
That
log
works.
off now. You all stay on.
Oh no, we all have to log.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then you have to log in first. So
Got it.
we'll aim for 7:20.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone log
Bye.
off. Hang up, Matt.
or deny.
Oh,
And I
okay.
don't know where to go to get that if you
I've
don't see
never-
the message.
I know. I don't know where that is either.
Yeah.
Activities, no, breakout rooms. I'm just trying to look at the different options. Yeah, because I looked at all the little options and
Yeah.
and I know we're probably still recording, so I'll text him and say try now.
And then you watch on your screen, I'll watch on mine in the event one of
Yeah.
us gets it.
Yeah. Right. Right. No, he's in the waiting room.
I have no idea where that is. I have no idea.
You know what? Let's Google it.
That
Yes,
was
we did the same thing.
See.
Thank you for going with my my approach to let's turn it off and turn it on.
And I'm sorry I yelled at you, but Randy and I were like, Randy said, oh, it hadn't transferred yet. So, okay, whenever the host joins the meeting, you'll be automatically directed from the waiting room to the meeting ready screen form where you
Did it
can
work?
join. I don't think this is.
I mean, if you would FaceTime with someone, then you could see his screen and do. But I mean,
Oh, how? Okay. 3 vertical. Oh, gotcha. Settings. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Randy, do the same just in case. Yeah. I don't see enable waiting room. I don't even see the option. Do you, Randy?
No.
there's no host controls.
Well, what I'm not sure about is why he's coming in on a Gmail. His invitation went to that SNC email. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I don't know where he's logging in from.
All right, I'm just going to tell him just call again. Just call in.
Oh,
I don't know what else to do.
hopefully he doesn't have anything to present to
Yep.
us.
Well,
Oh,
he has to log. You have to
it-
log in with the email address that you were sent the invite from, or to.
I can't do that.
Okay.
I wonder if we
How
can.
about if I email you to that Gmail account?
I guess you could do that. To be honest with you, I only use this Gmail account.
I wonder if the calendar invite, Randy, we can add this
Okay.
other email. Let me try that.
Can I ask a question? Matt, do we have anything visual that you need to share with us, or are we having a conversation?
I thought we were having a conversation, but I
Okay.
don't know where. I'm a little kind of behind on
All right.
where the policies look right now. So it's
Oh, so visual would be helpful. Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
was trying to get at. So, okay.
I don't know if it would help. I added him in the calendar invite for the Google
Yes.
Meet.
That would help a
Okay.
lot.
I added.
All right,
That's
so
what you
I
have to
think.
do.
I'm going to log out and try to log back
Try
in.
again.
Actually, I'll just stay on while I'm doing it. But
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry for the
See
chaos.
here. Let's see. Well, I may be in the waiting room right now. The
Still?
only other thing I could try is, yeah, because this is yeah.
I added your Gmail to the meeting,
Okay.
and you might have to log into the one you might get a new email or a new invite to your Google Calendar.
Oh, well, I mean,
And maybe
yeah, I mean, if the email to the invite, if the email though with the invite, the newest one went to my work email, which is mwm@SNC
No,
Legal.
it should go to your Gmail now because I
Yeah,
added.
I don't know how, I can't access that. I don't access that Gmail account. I don't know what the password is.
Okay.
I just use it as a backup when I have to give alternate email addresses to commercial vendors.
I think my last potential then would be the only last thing I can think of, and then I give up, is to put the meeting link in the, oh no, the chat, that's not going to work because, okay,
Can't see
I
it.
don't know what to do.
I don't think you can see the
You
chat.
you emailed him to the email address that he can access,
I did that already though. It didn't, the Google
and
Meet.
Okay.
app
and that
didn't
wouldn't allow
do-
him access.
Right, but he can't access it.
Yeah, I don't get emails at that address. Let me
No, no,
just see.
no. Can we send it to an email address that you can access?
Yeah, you can send it to my work email address. Yeah, that's where the other ones have gone.
It's the same
Okay.
link we had an hour ago. It's the same link.
Right, it's
Yes, but was the invite, does the invite have his email address that he can access on it?
Right.
Right. I
does?
would send it to him one more time. Yes. At that email address with the
The
invite.
other option is to try a different browser. If you're using Chrome, it might be messing around with how you're logged in. But if you
Yeah,
try
you
like
never know.
Edge or something like
So
that.
the invite went to to both of his emails. The
Right, but I'm
calendar
saying
invite is in
if he-
both, was sent to both.
Yeah, but if he uses a different browser instead of Chrome, that might help in case Chrome is messing with which Google login it's automatically
Yeah,
going
are
to,
you
because
on
it
Chrome?
always sends me.
Because I can
the
walk
wrong
you
one.
through that if you're
Yeah,
if
I'm
you're
on Chrome.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go to the top right and just make sure that that's the email address that you can actually access, that's signed in. So there should be a picture, top right-hand corner.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one that you can access.
Well, that's showing my Gmail address on the Chrome account.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's
Signed
Okay,
in.
so
you
you
just
go
switch
to the
users.
email address that you can access, that you do access, that you use.
That
So
that
change
doesn't
the
come up on
right-hand
my
corner.
that doesn't come up on my Gmail account.
Okay.
I'd have to add another one.
Well, I think
Okay.
the thing is,
Okay.
though, Matt, you have access to these two policies. So when we talk about a policy, you could still look at it.
Okay.
Google.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll do my best for you guys. I really don't want to hold you up. So
Okay.
Let's
No
try
problem.
it. Let's try
Okay.
it. I think you're going to be out. I
So-
think you can still see the policy in Google. It's the same ones you and I were looking at this evening.
Yeah, I mean, I still have them open as in the version that I last shared with you.
Great.
Okay. So to further complicate things, when I tried to open the policies, the second one took me to something that looks just like the first one. So I couldn't see two policies.
Well, which one do you want to talk about first? The
Well,
first,
the
one, the
very
offender,
first,
right?
yeah, the first one, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Okay. So the first one says non-discrimination, pupil services.
Okay.
That one is 6631A. Okay. Actually, I can see that one now. So,
6631A. Okay. Do you want me to display that?
sure. That would be great. Actually, I can see that one now. So,
Can you see it?
yes.
So that's the one, the non-discrimination, just non-discrimination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry, and I actually just realized I could print it, so I'm going to print it. So, this one is the one that we just, oh no, we hadn't redone this. We did this in 2019, so we didn't do it. I guess we hadn't revised this one yet at all this year. So this one was one that you had suggested we look at when you were looking at our other policies, and some of the changes came up, and you suggested we look at this one as well because it would need revised to be brought up to date. Was my understanding.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and I had provided you guys with a copy of a revised
Yeah.
version of it.
Through the chair, can I give an update since?
Yes, please
on
do.
this? Okay, so this one was the one where we said we needed the legal references updated and we wanted just one more review from the attorney before it went to school committee. So Attorney McAvoy did review it.
Yep.
And what was in here though at our last meeting, he actually made a few changes. And basically it was the fact that in the very first sentence of the non-discrimination about race, color, national origin, sex, sexual, homelessness had been added. We also had originally at our last meeting immigration status, recommending now that that's not in that first sentence and that instead you add or other protected status, but it's still below. And then I'll let him speak to that. And he did update the legal references too.
Okay.
So I amended the non-discrimination, the second sentence of that, to make it align exactly with the non-discrimination statement included at the bottom of all district documents, which the DESE has already approved. What my concern was after the last meeting when we were talking about the immigration status particularly, is in re-reviewing the policy, I didn't want to have in there that no one can be excluded from admission to or employment in the district on the basis of immigration status, because for employment purposes, they can be. That under the Immigration Reform and Control Act, we can't hire people who don't have valid work visas.
Right.
So we can discriminate against them in that regard, but but what I wanted to do was keep immigration status on the radar, particularly because it applies to students as well, so that people can complain about alleged discrimination on the basis of their immigration status. But we don't want to take the position in the preceding sentence that no one could be excluded from employment, particularly on the basis of immigration. So they could file a complaint, and the response to the complaint would be, this is not discrimination on the basis of on immigration status. This is, you were denied employment in accordance with the Immigration Reform and Control Act, which is not discriminatory.
Okay.
I mean, it's a weird little nuance, but I just did, in a 1 in 1,000 case where you have someone apply for a job and they don't have a green card, they don't have any evidence of citizenship or work authorization, we absolutely can and have to discriminate against them in terms of considering them for employment.
Yeah, I would just say that's following the law. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be necessarily discriminating, it's just following the law. But
right. That's right. And that would be the response to the complaint. But, we do want to permit people to be able to file a complaint about discrimination on the basis of immigration status.
Okay.
So it was just it was a relatively minor change.
Okay.
And we use the term other protected status in the general notice of non-discrimination included in the bottom of district documents anyway. So.
Okay.
And the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education was on board with that terminology.
Okay. I see, Jane, did you have your hand up?
Actually, let Laura go first, please.
Okay. Go ahead, Laura.
Thanks, Jane. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So my understanding is, having not been in attendance in the last meeting, is that this policy, as it has been amended, was approved to be recommended to the full school committee for adoption as pending the legal review. And this is the legal review, correct? And so do we need to make another motion to approve this, or is this just a kind of a catch up to make sure that there's no substantive change to this
There's
policy,
no
and it's more in
substantive-
alignment.
Right.
There is no substantive. Okay.
Yeah, so should we make a motion do we need to make a motion to do anything with this since it's already been approved
I guess-
unanimously in the previous meeting?
Right. I guess I will, my personal take is probably not, but I think I'll just open that up to the committee. Does the committee feel strongly that we should take a motion or make a motion again? Or that the old one is acceptable? I don't really have a strong preference. I see Jane again and then Linda. Jane.
Let Linda go. I kind of want to
Okay.
go toward the end.
So
Okay.
did we adopt this policy, and would this be an additional amendment to the policy as we adopted it at the last meeting?
Did we do this one at our last meeting? I thought it was 2 meetings ago, but
Or 2 meetings ago?
or 3.
Whenever it was, did we adopt?
3
did we
meetings
form-
ago.
You did I think you did say you approved it pending a
Yeah.
legal reference. Oh, there we go. Linda's. got
Thank
it.
you, Linda.
She is good.
Thank you. So we passed to recommend to the full school committee adoption of amended policy.
Right, pending legal
Pending
review.
legal
So,
review. And it was reviewed. There were a couple changes made to add legal references and a couple of phrases changed.
mhm.
So I don't know if we should formally make
Well, we
a
have
motion.
an attorney on the call. Maybe Matt wants to.
I mean, honestly,
Would
I don't
I?
think it hurts to make a new motion because it didn't go to the full
That-
committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a first or
that-
second reading question, which I'll ask your opinion of before we leave. But this didn't go to the full committee yet, so I don't think it hurts us to to repeat the motion, just to cover our bases. And then we
I hear Matt, I think he's trying to chime in with.
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I would agree with that. I
Yeah.
just don't see any downside to that.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Except we don't need to say pending legal review now because it's been reviewed.
Right.
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 Okay. And then, okay. Is there further
So
discussion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Is there further discussion on the motion? Okay. Seeing none, the motion is,
Hold on, let me just make sure I've got it so I can put it in the chat so it can be read out properly. Just give me a
And
second.
Jane, I'm not sure if you needed to still speak. I think your hand was up.
I don't know if it's best now or to wait till after. Why don't we wait till you vote, and then if I could speak, I'd appreciate it. Something to update you on.
sure. You're waiting for the motion in the chat. Okay. Motion to recommend to the full school committee adoption of amended policy P1010, policy for non-discrimination, school committee operations, former policy 6631A. Is that correct? I think that's correct. Okay.
Well, yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion before we vote? I can't see what that was.
That was me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So
I was-
you're.
I was trying to close pages, so I was clear about
Oh,
where we
okay.
are.
No worries. I just wanted to check. Okay. All right. Hopefully I can see everyone in a second. All right. So I will vote on that. Brett,
Beardmore, yes.
everyone's in a different order now. Krista,
Bennett, yes.
Laura,
Kirschenbaum, yes.
Linda Longvalil,
Longville, yes.
Linda Woodland,
Woodland, yes.
and Gustafson, yes. Okay, so that has been approved. So then we need to get that on the agenda for the next school committee meeting, hopefully. Okay, now Jane, which I suspected is what you had to talk about. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, okay, so remember that we had, and it's not on the agenda, so I
No.
want to make sure I'm doing this properly, but I did talk with Matt about it. That same exact language about immigration status and other protected status, that's not mirrored in our other new policy that has already had a first read from the school committee, P1000.
Okay.
So before that goes for a second read, can
Mhm.
we make these same changes just so that they mirror each other? And I'm not saying it's a vote, it's not on the agenda, but just makes sense that we would do that, correct? Or does it need to come back to this committee in a month and?
No, so, okay, this is my thought on this, because we did have some minor changes the last time as well, and we had a question about whether it was first or second reading.
Right.
Okay, so at that point, my understanding was that because it was just the legal references and nothing else, that it was fine to be a second reading. However, I think if we have these changes, then that makes it a first reading. But I will defer to our legal
And
person.
and that's fine. The person that we had asked about that legal advice as to first reading, second reading, and so on was Attorney Bartulis.
Yes, and he thought it would be second reading, but that was not with these changes. That was just with.
Well, it was a different policy, and it did have, right, it only
But
had.
it didn't have language changes like this. Although, so, okay, I'm going to ask a question. I see Linda's hand, but I'm going to ask you a question for clarification, because I also recall at our meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, when Mr. McAvoy was with us the last time. We asked about whether the language had to line up, and the response was not exactly, and that's probably fine. And so that's why we didn't edit it further. So I don't know. I mean, I will leave that for discussion, but that was just 2 weeks ago. So I just want to make sure we are correct in this discussion. And then Linda has a question.
I guess I'm trying to remember the language of the other policy. Does it also refer to employment? Do we have the same issue as we have here, where we refer to employment in terms of saying that no person shall be excluded from or discriminated against in employment? Do we have that same issue? Because if we don't have that same issue, it might not be necessary. If we do, then it is necessary.
We do have the same issue.
Okay.
With employment. Okay. So I also don't have the newest version of that policy, because the last meeting it wasn't reviewable because we did not get the new version. So I don't actually have the new version.
I'm sorry, Emily. I think you're confusing that with the gender identity policy, not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am. You're right. Never mind. Ignore that.
I think we have two options. We can just wait until the next diversity and equity. We could not put either on the school committee agenda for the 3rd and wait for the next diversity and equity meeting.
That will be like July, though.
That's what I'm worried about.
So this policy, okay, let me back up for a second. We just talked about the non-discrimination policy, and we approved that to go on the next agenda. Which policy are you talking about right now? Make sure we're all talking about the same one.
And again, I want to be, it's not on our agenda this evening. But it is, like Linda mentioned, non-discrimination policy. It happens to be the non-discrimination and harassment. The new number is P1000.
Right, that we just
passed. The school committee had a first read.
Right, and it passed on the first reading.
Yes.
Okay, so now I recall now. Thank you.
So with further legal review with this non-discrimination policy, this one was right in front of us on the screen. We had to make a tweak, and so we're just saying we wanted to parallel.
Yeah, that takes my question. Then I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my own confusion, because I didn't have it in front of me. Because it passed on the first reading. So this is a question, if we make changes based on further legal review, then will our attorney advise us, does that count as a first reading or a second reading?
I'm going to be candid with you guys. I would defer to Attorney Bartulis on that. We don't, this is not my,
okay.
Robert's Rules of Order, not my area of expertise.
And I believe, Jane, that he had said previously that if there are changes between them, it still is a second reading, if that was my recollection.
Yes.
because that's the whole point of having readings, is to get feedback and then make changes.
Yep.
Okay. And I believe you sent that to me, and I don't know if it was in writing, but you sent it to me in an email. Okay. So, all right, let me get through the queue because I see we have hands up, and I apologize. I just wanted to get the logistics done. Laura?
I think Linda had her hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Linda.
So I think that just since it isn't on the agenda and since we're having this discussion anyway, I think we need to look at the time and save it for the next meeting. We won't be looking at a July meeting. I can't imagine, given that we don't have the same delay as last year with the elections. All the towns' elections are May 9th, the reorganization's May 17th. Last time the reorganization wasn't until like June 30th or something crazy, right? So I think that we're going to be looking at a new subcommittee, I would imagine, much earlier than July. So I think let's not put it on for a second reading for May 3rd. And save it for when we reconvene.
Okay. All right. So we're saving for next. Okay. And then, Laura, did you still have
I was just going to ask, the only question I had about that was if during the second reading there was an amendment made to include that language, then it could just happen at the full committee meeting to amend. No? Okay.
I'm pretty sure that in our bylaws it says that any changes during the second reading to the language means that it has to go back to a first reading.
So I can bring them
Okay,
both.
thank
You know, I'll make sure they're both on the agenda for the next diversity equity meeting. So I wouldn't.
What do you mean by both?
1010 and 1000.
Okay, 1010. Okay.
I think they need to be together at a school committee meeting.
Yeah.
1010 and 1. Oh, the ones that we just did.
Yeah.
One's just approved.
Okay.
So we'll just look at them again together the next meeting.
So you're saying they should be together to make sure they're in alignment, whatever we decide, because we just passed 1010 with this language.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So now we are not. So now we are undoing basically what we just did.
No, you've approved it. It's just a matter of at the next meeting for diversity, we'll put P1000 on the agenda and we'll look at it. We'll also need to look at it and compare it to P1010. So that's why they would both just be on the agenda. That's all. But it's P1010 you've already approved.
Okay. All right. So it will be added to the next diversity agenda, whenever that is. Okay. All right. Is there any other comment on this topic before we move to the next one? All right. I'm sorry. I apologize for my disorganization again if I didn't have time to print everything out. Okay. So 1010 we're done with for now. Okay. The next policy that is on here is P6437.1, non-discrimination on the basis of disability, pupil services. This one we just passed in November, but I believe there were some language changes that came up when you were reviewing some of Attorney McAvoy was reviewing our other policies that have changed since November, apparently. So, go ahead. I
would actually submit to you that it wasn't that there have been changes in the law since November. Right. It's just some of the wording in the policy as it existed was potentially problematic and failed to recognize your responsibilities under Section 504 as well.
Okay. Okay, so it's different. It's more clarification. That was not. That was.
Yeah, I had recommended the removal of some of the language. I mean, to be candid, I mean, it's standard MASC stuff that, most school districts use the policy in its existing form, but you absolutely need to have specific references under Section 504, to Section 504, my recommendation is also that you include the definition of the actual definition of disability under section 504 in the ADA at the outset of the definition section, which is what I
Okay.
added, because previously it stated a qualified individual is an individual with a disability, but it is necessary for purposes of those statutes that you kind of actually define what is a disability under those statutes, and that is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity.
Okay. So this is adding further clarification and definition in accordance with the law.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep.
It's in alignment with the law.
Yep.
Okay. And it just became obvious as we were reviewing other policies. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any discussion on this?
Yes, I had some questions.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Laura.
So, I mean, I agree. I think it makes a whole lot of sense, and it's important to add references to section 504. I had a question at the end of the first paragraph. Well, in the middle of the first paragraph, you added employment opportunities. So my sense was you wanted this policy to apply both to students and other community members, and also people that the district employs. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, but my understanding from speaking with Brendan was that, what the effort was to try to kind of, streamline the policies and where possible, cover both employment and student issues.
Yes, that makes perfect sense to me too, whenever possible. So then in the very last line of the first paragraph, we refer to Title II of the ADA.
Yep.
Should we do what we did in another policy and just talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act, because employment is Title I?
Right. Yeah, that would probably make sense. Yep.
Yeah. I think we should just change it to the Americans with Disabilities Act or of the ADA without naming a specific title. I think that makes more sense. And then I wondered a couple things about the definition. One was, why did you take out the with a disability who are with or without reasonable modification?
I in the most recent version of that, I put that back in.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's fine to have it back in. That is the ADA employment language.
Yeah.
My main concern was just the lack of definition of disability.
Okay. Yeah, I like
so
it
I
better
actually
with that
provide.
back in.
Yeah.
I like it
so
better with that back in.
Where is that part?
It's under definitions. It's the first sentence. So it should read, a qualified individual with a disability is an otherwise qualified individual determined through an individual process to have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, and who, with or without reasonable modifications to rules, policies, or practices.
Okay.
So it adds in the actual operative definition of disability.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Now I have to admit, I mean, I've never seen, I thought it was interesting that it said determined through an individualized team process. So you're saying that the school has to determine that the person is an individual with a disability, but I don't know, it just language.
Right. So this is I actually in the latest version of that, I took out the team.
Oh, okay.
You are required under both statutes to do this through an individualized process to determine eligibility.
Yes.
But I don't necessarily, in looking at it again, realize that, this also applies to, third parties who may come onto school grounds. We have the obligation to make accommodations. I don't want to set up a scenario where, you have to say, oh, well, you can't come tonight. We have to have a team meeting. But it has to be an individualized process. So you can't have kind of a blanket, these people can get in, these people can't. So I removed team in the latest version.
I guess I have a version. I clicked the version on the agenda, and I think the version on the agenda must not be the most recent version.
No, Linda, I apologize, but it was changed this afternoon when
Yeah, me and Jane and I were working on this stuff today. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, good. And then let's see. And then you took out. Let's see. Can you scroll down? I'm going to look at the more recent version so that I understand.
Okay.
Oh, good. You added auxiliary aids and services back in. Good.
I
Okay.
put it back in, but what I did was what my concern about the language that exists, and again, this is language that the MASC has used, is
Right.
that I didn't want it to be construed as limiting the potential types of aids and services that we could provide, because the U.S. Department of Education would have an issue with that. So what I added in was auxiliary aids and services include, comma, but are not limited to.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
That will
Yeah.
pass muster with the Office for Civil Rights if they were to review this policy.
That sounds good. Yes. So then on the second page, let's see, I saw that you added in the district's appointed ADA coordinator. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, under Title II, it has to be the district's ADA coordinator who renders the final decision.
Right. That makes sense. Yes. Let's see. Let's see. There was one other thing. Oh, in that same paragraph, on this draft, let me see if it's here. Where did it go? Limits of required modification. Should it be at the second sentence? Any decision that in compliance with its responsibility to provide effective communication, shouldn't it be modification?
Well, this policy, this particular section, that sentence goes directly to the Title II ADA effective communication regulations, which are different, and there's a higher standard. And in fact, I struggled with this a little because there's another statement in the policy. Where is it? Where it says that the individual with the disability, the wishes of the individual with disability district shall give primary consideration to the request of the individuals with it. That is actually a Title II communication requirement. So it's not in all cases that we give primary consideration to the request of individuals. It's only for people with hearing, or speech impairments.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a Title II effective communications requirement. It's just the effective communications part of Title II is just much more onerous than any other part of the ADA when it comes to school districts.
Oh, I'm
playgrounds.
Sure I'm not surprised.
I
think there was a lot of advocacy by the deaf community.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that this is limits of required modifications, which to me gives the impression that it's a much broader provision, that it applies to all modifications and not just the communications provision. So what I'm wondering about, so it seems to me that's confusing. I think that's confusing. Because to me, the way I would read this is I would think that it applied to all modifications. And it seems to me that if there's a different standard for communication, we should have a separate section for communication.
Well, the version I'm looking at actually does have a separate section.
Oh, wait,
it's reasonable modification, and then the subsection is communication.
Okay, whoa. Okay, let's see. Well, there's communication up here on the first page. I see that.
Okay.
I see that on the first page. Shall take appropriate steps, blah, 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 to this end, district shall furnish auxiliary aids and services. And then it does say here that that takes care of that issue there. But if you scroll down,
where it says effective under limits of required modifications.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The only problem with that is that, the ADA coordinator in other instances for other requested accommodations is not required to do the same thing that they are for effective communication.
Right. But does this limits of required modifications, are you intending that this paragraph only applies to communication? That's really my question, because to me, it appears to apply much more broadly than that. It appears to apply to modifications generally, and it says limits of required modifications, and there's no specific language other than that one, other than in the second sentence, limiting the rest of this to communication. So I would prefer that it says to provide effective modification, or provide a reasonable modification, rather than effective communication, because I think to me this is a broader provision.
Right. I mean, that's a little bit of a tricky issue because, anytime you have a student requesting an accommodation, a school-based accommodation, generally that is a team determination.
Mhm.
So, when a student requests, for example, when the team writes in an IEP, the student requires use of an FM system.
Mhm.
The team makes the determination under the IDEA in Section 504 of the appropriate intervention or support services.
Right. Yes.
The problem is that by referencing back, you could have effective modifications, but then I think I would be recommending that you take out the language about the final decision being made by the ADA coordinator.
Yes, but that. Oh, I see. Okay.
Right,
Well,
because
that
the
makes
ADA
sense.
coordinator
Yeah.
is not, it already creates a real issue for team personnel because we do trainings on this, which is, again, when those issues come up in the course of a team meeting, the training is, yes, the team makes the determination as to what they believe to be the appropriate modification or accommodation. But if it's an effective communication claim, the ADA coordinator still has to render a final decision. But for other types of disability-related accommodations, that's not required.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
So I guess I think that there should be a section that applies only to, other modifications. And then maybe this should be clarified in the section on communication.
Well, one thing we could actually do, if you wanted to, is we could move, we could alter the limits of required modification section and move the ADA coordinator responsibility up to the preceding page under communication.
That makes sense.
That would probably make it more clear.
Yep, I think
That way
so.
you still have that in there, but you're not potentially binding yourself to some responsibility that you don't otherwise have.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense. I agree with that. Yep. And then I would, as I said, say instead of communication in this paragraph, I would put modification. That's what I would do.
If you cut and paste the bottom two sentences of the limits of required modifications, if those were to go, just cut and paste those up under communication, that would do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would make sense to me, but then I would still want some more language under limits of required modifications, I
Okay.
think.
I'm gonna think about that for a second because I know Laura had her hand up. I don't know if it was relevant to this discussion or this piece of the discussion, or if there was a different direction.
No, I took my hand down, so this is a fine conversation. I'm following. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
would just volunteer that from legal counsel's perspective, I would not add additional language under limits of required modifications.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because the language that's contained in it, the fundamental alteration and undue financial and administrative burden, that is taken directly from the ADA.
Right. Yes.
And if you start to try to parse that out, you could find yourself you could potentially be obligating yourself to do something that's not required under the federal law, or it could be, potentially running afoul of US DOE if they were to review our policies on this. Because they would likely disagree. They've never seen an undue burden a burden that they think is undue.
Right.
Just so you're aware.
Yeah, no, I understand.
If it doesn't close the school down, it's not an undue burden.
Right. Yeah. We have $105 million budget, and they think that's plenty of money for accommodation.
Yeah, that's right. And you have a money tree in the backyard of the school.
Of course, for everything.
Can you scroll back up to the previous paragraph about the definition of disability for just one moment? And then I'm almost done. I promise.
Jane, was your question about this particular subtopic we're on right now?
I just want to make sure I did this right. So I took those last two sentences and I put it in communication. So that's accurate.
That's much better. I like that. That reads much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when we go to the limit now, am I crossing this out? Is this getting deleted? Okay. That's all. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right.
If you could scroll back up to the definition of disability for just one moment.
Yep.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
And I will do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So as long as the language is in there about reasonable modification, as long as that's in the definition, then I'm fine with not including it below. I think that's fine.
Okay.
It says with or without reasonable accommodation. So that's fine. I think if you could just look at the next page, just to make sure, because I looked at an old version. Let's see, I just want to make sure. Let's see.
I can just say that the one thing I really added in notice was I added in between applicants, participants, and beneficiaries, students. I just put
Yes.
students in there.
That
There's
makes
no reason not to have them in there.
That makes a lot of sense, yes.
Yeah.
And the applicability of those statutes, yeah. Let's see, all right. And then compliance coordinator, at least when employed coordinate, section 504, publicly, blah, blah, blah. I think it looks fine. Yeah, to me, the rest of it looks fine.
Jane?
Are we striking through of Title II again?
Oh, good
Notice
point.
and compliance?
I mean, yeah, you could strike through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yep, I think that's good.
I think it's in here 3 times in the whole document.
Yeah, you could just
so
take it
striking all
out
of them.
and just refer to the ADA generally.
Yep.
The one thing I'll add for you all, and I didn't want to, take the liberty of striking this out, but the final sentence, the final group of sentences, which is additionally the school committee believes that discrimination against the qualified is unfair and to the extent possible. That's not absolutely necessary language. I mean, it's a little redundant. It's perfectly fine to have it in there. It doesn't create any huge problem, but just so you're aware. I mean, that's what they're required to do under the law. And we
Right.
not only consider it unfair, we consider it illegal
Right, yes.
and a violation of district policy.
Yes. I'm neutral. I mean, whether people want to take it out or leave it in.
Yeah, I will entertain discussion on that. Do people have thoughts on that? Jane, can you, or whoever is showing it, can we scroll to that section?
I think I'm there, aren't I?
What I'm seeing is
If
showing the limit section. It's not showing.
Yeah,
limits.
if you go down to additionally.
There, let's try that again.
If you go to additionally at the bottom of that paragraph,
It's the very last section of the document.
yeah.
Yeah.
Additionally, the school committee believes.
I can't see the document
Right there.
anymore for some reason.
Yeah,
Okay, here
there
we
it
go.
is. It's back.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
So that part where it says additionally down through number 1 and number 2. And Laura has her hand up. Go ahead, Laura.
Thanks. We normally in our policies have some sort of statement of belief or goal or something like that. So this does kind of keep with our typical, kind of modus operandi when it comes to our policies. However, given the fact that it doesn't really matter what we believe in this particular policy, the law is the law and we are obligated to follow it. And this policy just ensures that we do. I do feel kind of strongly that our belief statement doesn't really belong here. It kind of, it is redundant and doesn't really, it's not going to hold water to have it. So why even bother having that statement of belief?
Are there any other thoughts on that?
I think we deleted, we need to insert a the before the ADA under, not the one that we can see right now, but further up. I think when we deleted language, we missed a the. Where was it? Let's see. Here
Tell
it
me
is.
under what title?
When we eliminated Title II in the first sentence in the compliance coordinator section, we forgot to add a the under the ADA.
Oh, right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, thinking about what Laura had to say and what Attorney McAvoy has said with the last 2 sub-paragraphs. I mean, the only thing I sort of do like, I mean, I said I was neutral and I basically am. This is not all critical in my mind, but I do sort of like the statement that people with disabilities should be in the mainstream of life in the school community. I do sort of like that. I like that language to some extent, but again, it's not,
I do.
I sort of like that because, so many young people with disabilities end up being isolated in school.
Right.
And so I sort of like
You-
that sentence.
You could.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You could eliminate bulleted paragraph 1 and say
Mhm.
additionally the school committee, believes that or expresses its commitment to ensuring that qualified disabled persons, qualified individuals with disabilities are included in the mainstream of life in the school community.
Yeah, I like that. I like that better. Yeah, I like
Right.
that better.
Linda Woodland.
So I was just going to suggest that we make it additionally, the school committee believes to the extent possible, qualified disabled person should be in the mainstream of life in the school community, and just leave it as simple as that. But
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think we should use persons with disabilities just because that's the language of the law.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I'm lost the thread on that.
So Jane,
Okay.
what we would say is that additionally, the school committee believes that to the extent possible, qualified persons with disabilities should be in the mainstream of life in the school community. And just make it a sentence, get rid of the colon.
Okay, I think I understand.
Make
Yeah.
it its own sentence in a separate paragraph.
Can I-
Like put a return.
Can I
before
ask really
additionally.
quick what, I'm sorry, just like,
No, go ahead,
like
Kristen.
qualifying question. What is the mainstream of life?
That's a good question. It's kind of a philosophical thing. I mean,
Yeah, I don't want to get philosophical with it. That's not really my like purpose for asking, but do we mean the mainstream in the school?
well, I guess, are we talking about mainstreaming? Is that what you mean?
Right.
I see. Yeah, I see your point. Boy.
'Cause
Linda
that's what I would
Woodland
prefer.
is raising her hand.
I
enthusiastically.
have an idea.
Oh.
It should be an integral part of the school community.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's good.
I feel like that also, I mean, it doesn't get to the whole like the meat and potatoes of the fact that people are getting separated. Like they can still be integral but go to separate classes. They can say, oh, they make a difference,
Well,
and still send them
Well,
to a
separate
separate
class-
floor.
but
Separate
that's
classes
that
can-
gets into IEP things
Right,
though, which is I
right.
think beyond the
Right.
policy. That's more
Right. Then it could get
implementation.
tricky.
That
Yes.
gets into like the nuts and bolts of like implementation and not policy.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
that's my opinion. I don't know. I think I just heard Attorney McAvoy say that, but he can weigh in on that, please.
I like
Yeah,
what
I mean,
Linda Woodland said.
we have to be careful about the language there again, just because, you don't want a situation where you have someone alleging that, a team's recommendation to place a student in a substantially separate setting or an out of district placement somehow violates your non-discrimination policy.
Right.
And we would
Yeah.
argue that it's not,
Well,
I mean, they might argue that, it could potentially be possible if you hired
Mhm.
6 new teachers.
Laura,
So I would let the mission of each of the schools in our buildings handle this and eliminate this verbiage from our policy.
I sort of like Linda Woodland's statement about persons with disabilities should be an integral part of life or integral part of life in the school community, part of the
I
life
s-
of the school community.
I
see
like it
Linda
too.
has her
I was just trying to go further.
right. I understand your intent. I worry about it legally and the line between policy and process.
Right.
And then I see Linda Woodland has her hand up again.
So I would advocate for keeping it in this part only because of having 13 different schools and wanting to make sure that while we don't prescribe exactly how it looks in each school, that the message is consistent. That I mean, I think it's very easy to unintentionally leave out students with disabilities from like events from that are done with other groups in association with the school or some things
Yeah.
like that. I think that is an issue at times across
It
any
is.
district, but in ours too. So that's where I like the idea of having it within here, as long as it doesn't put us in a box that that would take us outside of compliance.
Right.
Well,
right.
the one thing I might say, I mean, if you were to leave the second bulleted paragraph kind of using that kind of strange mainstream of life term, if you were to leave it that way, I mean, it still essentially makes the statement, but it doesn't necessarily bind you to anything specific.
I think the issue is with, socially the term mainstream is a little problematic because
I know.
right? Because it others.
Mhm.
It conveys
Others.
mainstream and other.
Right. It conveys a difference. It conveys a prioritization. So that's where I was going with integral.
Yeah.
So that it's not.
I think integral is better. And I agree with what you just said about the word mainstream. And also, I think I could see a parent sort of latching onto that word mainstream and,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
trying to advocate for, a more mainstream placement that maybe wouldn't be the best.
Educationally appropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The whole
So-
issue of FAPE is totally different. So we're
Yes.
not
Yeah.
trying to
So
mandate
I like
that with this.
integral.
I also think it's to what I don't remember who said it now. I'm sorry. I've had a long couple of days. I think the piece about having 13 schools is relevant because I know also I hear a lot from the CPAC and the students that I have discovered this year that students that are out of district, even if they're district students, don't get emails that come from the schools. So they don't have any, they get district emails, but they don't get any of the blasts that go out from the schools about the school activities, the school clubs, the school events. A lot of the district information is sent through the principal level. And anyone who's out of district, not in a district building, doesn't get those messages. So they don't even have an opportunity to be integral to the life of their school because they don't know about it. So I think having something in general is just purporting that we think, is explaining that we think that's important for any of our students. Krista, I see your hand. So I like that. I like keeping some general statement in, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Krista?
So I was just gonna kind of circle back on like educationally appropriate. Since this is the diversity subcommittee, and we're promoting diversity, and the best way for students to learn in a diverse setting is to not be segregated. I would suggest that the best way to educate our kids is to actually try to get them all in the same classes and not think that there's a separate area for education. And if there's for different differences, but if that's not legal at this time, I know where else I should be fighting for that.
Well, it is. Well, I'll let Jerry McAvoy speak on that, but it's a separate set of rules and language, though, from my knowledge.
It is. And, the preference under the IDEA is, always the least restrictive environment, in which being the general education classroom with typical peers. But where a team determines that a student requires a more restrictive placement, even if the parents disagree with it, to ensure that the student makes progress appropriate in light of their individual circumstances, you don't want to be bound by some conflicting policy to provide, general ed services to a student who has been determined by a group of educational professionals to require, intensive small group services outside of the general ed setting. I have cases every year where there are students who, have been recommended for services like that, and they've been refused on the basis of access to least restrictive environment. And towards the end of their high school careers, it is recognized that, in fact, the student did not make the progress they would have been hoped to make in the general ed setting. And suddenly, there's a demand for an out of district placement.
Right.
I think some of that discussion is beyond diversity is in all types is important, but the actual, like, the special education landscape is a whole different set of discussions.
Yeah.
That I think we can certainly bring up. That's part of what CPAC is for, and talking with Christine, and there are ways to bring some of that up, and I think it's certainly part of our responsibility, but I don't know if it's related to this overarching policy on non-discrimination, if that makes sense. I think it's a different discussion.
I worry about bias.
I
And
totally
when those people are
understand.
making those decisions
I
about
totally understand that.
certain students being taken out of.
Well,
Well, just
Anyway.
technically on the bias front, I mean, no individual makes that decision. It is a team,
well,
including the parents, make the placement decision.
Right.
well, on paper it is. Well, again, that gets into special education discussions about how we
Yeah.
function,
Yeah.
and that's
And
a
I
whole
think-
different discussion. Go,
And I think
Laura?
recognizing, oops, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Laura. Sorry.
Laura?
So I'm wondering, I was trying to type this in the chat and I'm not quite done yet, but I'm wondering if this language sounds appropriate to people. That says, additionally to the school committee believes that to the extent possible, persons with disabilities should be deemed an integral part of the school community.
Or should be included.
Yes, should be included.
So I was trying to avoid the word included because of the association with inclusion and least restrictive and that sort of thing. But it's more of a perception, right? I feel like that's where we're heading. Like, what do we want our community to perceive? What do we want our students to perceive? What do we want our administration to perceive? And the parents, is that these children with disabilities are still an active and important part of our school community. Wherever they're placed for their disability is irrelevant. They are still an integral and valued part of our school community. And maybe that's the wording that we need, is that they are an integral and valued part of our school community.
I kind of like that. That's just my opinion. I see Linda Woodland next. Or no, was it Linda Longbelier? Both of you had your hands up. Linda
I don't know where
Woodland?
I was in the queue. I think I was
Okay.
next though.
Okay,
Go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
So I would, I don't know, I mean, if it's okay to give like a specific, it's a positive example of what I think we're trying to get at that one of our schools has done. But this past spring, Houghton had done their Scholastic Book Fair through the PTO, and they included the sensory-friendly shopping time on Literacy Night. And so that's a kind of example of what I'm going for when I'm saying an integral part of the school community, is that it's students who may or may not be placed in a separate classroom, I don't know, but for whatever reason, they of disability, they would value having a sensory-friendly shopping time, and that is made available to them, not necessarily through the school district's offering, but the school partnership with the PTO. And so it's those kinds of openings that we want to nurture, encourage, and see more of throughout our district. And I think that that's what I'm trying to get across in here. I don't know if that is what this committee group is trying to get across. So
Yeah.
I like
Okay. Linda Longbelier.
So, so I still think I prefer Linda's language, because to me the word deemed, I don't know, is sort of I'm having a hard time explaining what it is, but it's sort of like you are like knighted.
Recognized?
We recognized. Maybe recognized is better, but I still like Linda's more simpler language better. Just I still liked that better. And the other thing was, what was it? Oh, I was going to say that I think that, recognizing that some kids need a different modality and a different way of being taught, different classrooms sometimes, or even an out of district placement, to me is recognizing diversity. To me, it is recognizing diversity. That's, I mean, I think we all wish that everyone could be educated appropriately in a mainstream classroom, but it's just, for some kids, it's just a dead end. And so, yeah, so.
Okay. Noted, Laura.
It's the interesting thing, and I'll just kind of offer to you all that the two considerations in any dispute with the Massachusetts Bureau of Special Education Appeals, which is Special Ed Court, and the two primary considerations under the IDEA are that the student be provided with services that are provided at no charge to the parents that are reasonably calculated to enable the student to make progress appropriate in light of their individual circumstances in the least restrictive setting consistent with that goal. So oftentimes when you have litigation involving out-of-district placements, the issue is kind of least restrictive environment versus educational benefit. Consistently, courts and the BSEA come down on weighting heavily educational benefit even over least restrictive environment. They view that as the primary focus of the IDEA. Right. That it's really the focus is more on ensuring that the student is making educational progress consistent with their potential. They both are important considerations, but the most important to hearing officers and judges review applying the ADA is the actual educational benefit aspect of the child's educational plan.
Yeah,
they don't dismiss least restrictive, but that's why there are so many out-of-district placements.
Right. So can I add one more thing? I see the new language up there. So additionally, the school committee believes that believes that it should be integral members of the community. I don't should be integral members of the community. I just like it that way personally. I mean, I think if you say are valued, it's almost like methinks the lady doth protest too much. It's sort of like, yeah, I prefer just should be integral members of the school community. That's my view. So.
Yeah.
Do you want me to type that? Or
yeah,
what?
or
just type it where you are, and then we can.
Malia, to type it?
I would just type it like next to it so we can think about it.
Okay. All right. So should be, right? And then I'm just going to put in parentheses are valued. Right? So we can talk about it.
Okay.
That's what I think you asked me to do, right, Malia?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, does anyone have thoughts on this further on this change and what direction we should go?
I'd be okay with should be recognized as integral members of the school community. I think that would be okay. If we feel we need a verb there. Another, it's a thought.
Okay.
I was an English major, so I'm a royal pain in the butt.
You're very good at writing. I can vouch for that.
Could I just change? Could I offer that I am fine with removing the are valued, and I am fine with also just saying are integral members of the school community. Rather than should be recognized as, just say they are.
I was just going to say that without my
chair
hat on.
I think that's fine.
Because I think we are saying that the school committee believes, and it's a statement of our value, not saying you should do this or we hope that this, but they are. And that's what we think. That's actually really similar to where we landed with the gender policy on how we worded that, which I don't have in front of me, but I remember similar discussion. And it's very definitively stating values.
I'm going to say one more quick thing, and then I may actually be quiet.
This is your area of expertise, so it's okay.
Well, sort of. So I'm wondering if this sentence actually belongs at the very beginning. just instead of, the school committee believes that individuals with disabilities are integral members of the school community. Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 and Section 504, et cetera, et cetera. To me, it belongs in the beginning, this one sentence,
Okay.
without the additionally.
Thoughts on that? I'll entertain thoughts on that. Does anyone have an opinion? Does
Can you
anyone
repeat what you just said?
Yes.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I would take that last sentence and I would put it at the very beginning of the document, without the word additionally, of course.
So it would start with the school
Yeah, I
committee
like
believes
that because
that individuals with disabilities are an integral part of the school community,
Mhm.
and then the policy language.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that keeps with our format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
however,
everything follows from that, which is kind of exactly
Yes,
what
that
the
actually is
message
what
you
we
want to
did with the
convey.
letter.
Yep.
so before I just do that editing properly, can I just, you mentioned integral part, Malia, but I had changed that to integral members.
Yeah, that's fine. I misspoke.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that was okay. All right.
I couldn't read that tiny, so I misspoke.
All right. Let me do a little work right now, and then you guys can let me know if what I did is what you intended.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all yellow highlight now because it's really all like new at the beginning. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what goes at the beginning.
And
then down here,
I
now
would.
this is gone.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I don't know what the original was, so I'll kind of have to check that, but
This was
right.
everything that's here and crossed out is part of original. So yeah, because we
Yeah.
just did it in
But
November.
the original, did it say believes colon or believes that colon?
All
right, I'll look later.
But it doesn't matter if we're just taking it out, so it's okay.
Okay.
I
Now
think
the
it should
beginning.
be its own sentence.
Excuse
I
me?
think there should be a return before Title II. That's just my opinion, though. Feel free to disagree.
Can you guys see it like that?
Yeah, it's going to have to say, it's going to have to introduce it like all the other ones do, which I think is the full name of our school committee. So the Wachusett Regional School Committee believes that, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. School district committee, I think.
Yeah, it's so long.
Mm-hmm. It's so long.
School district
Yeah.
committee.
How'd you think?
Yes, I think that's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Linda, by the way, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your expertise on this. I feel like you went through this with a fine-tooth comb, and I appreciate that.
I did. But I mean, I don't have 20 plus years of representing school districts, so I appreciate Attorney McAvoy's comments greatly.
Jane?
When I look at some of these other policies, it just says the Wachusett Regional School District, not committee.
Ah,
Okay. That's
I'll
fine.
double check that with Randy, but I'm looking at just a few I had printed and maybe the ones are wrong. So so I'll check on that if that's okay.
Yeah, the non-discrimination policy, I think, has WRSDC.
Oh, it does. You're right. Yeah, you're
yep.
right. Yeah. Should I do that? Just WRSDC? I'll check with
Linda?
I'm just like randomly clicking on ones in our policy book and it's mixed. So far I came up with 5 that just say Wachusett Regional School District.
Yeah, I mean, to be candid, I would tend to say, Wachusett Regional School District is the correct
instead of
term to
committee.
be using because it's
Because
not
they're
you as the
committee
policy,
policies.
it's you as the district.
Right.
They're committee
mean-
policies on behalf of the district. So
Right.
I like that better. So it's not just the 20 of us or however many it ends up being. It's representative of the whole district as a value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we want to read through it again and just make sure, just look at it and make sure that there's no other changes before we are good? Before we say we're good. This was a little revision that turned into a big revision.
Yeah.
It's okay though. It's all right. I'll just say that we reconsidered some of the language since we had to reopen it up.
Mm-hmm.
We realized we could streamline it further. Because I know some people wondered why we were looking at it since we just done it in November. So, all right.
Yeah, well, I think that's just the nature of these policies. They're meaty, they're legal, and they're important. And you know, it's a constant. I mean, it's like curriculum. You know, you're constantly in revision. You're constantly refining, and just because it's done one year doesn't mean that it takes 10 more years to get back to it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, we're supposed to review them all every 3 years per our agreement, but we don't. But that's what we're supposed
We'd
to
need
do.
a lot fewer policies then.
Yeah. Well, no, if they were done on a regular basis, they actually wouldn't need that. And we were efficient, but that's a whole other story. They wouldn't need that much. But since we wait so long in between, then they require more detail. Some of them. Okay. So does everyone take a minute to read this part? I'll give you a minute. And then we'll move on to the next section and make sure that that's okay.
So down at the legal references, we still have Title II in there. for
Right,
Americans
and
with
you actually
Disabilities.
have it. Do you still have it at the beginning of the second paragraph?
right there.
You could just say just capitalize the.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
that was
Well,
one of our
don't delete
changes.
it, Matt. We got to do this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Undo. I can do it.
You
I'll
have to
do it.
show
Hold
the
on.
changes, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I
You want
got
me
it.
just to do? Oh, you got it. Okay. Oh no, something just happened. Sorry.
Oh,
That's
Wait, I'm going
okay.
to Control Z. All right, there you go. I'm going to leave my hands off the keyboard.
Okay, no problem.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's right.
it's okay. I appreciate it. I appreciate your efforts, all of you. And
Okay.
Matt, thank you
So
for
we wanted to be
sharing your
just
time with us.
Americans with disabilities. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, that's right.
And then where else was it? You mentioned
Well,
some.
well, the rest one's at the bottom. Okay, we can. Do you want to
Wait,
do it
that-
now and then come back? Okay.
May as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Title II. Okay, strike through.
I got that one, Jane.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shouldn't it say shouldn't the words, why were the words of 1990 as amended struck? I'm just curious.
I just generally don't, because the common terminology is no one references I mean, frankly, most people don't even use of 1973 when they say Rehabilitation Act anymore. But I
Okay.
mean, you can leave it in. I just, generally use the commonly used current terminology.
Okay. I think that's fine.
I think it says of 1990 in the paragraph, though, that we just came
It
from.
does.
So we
That's
need to be
true.
consistent.
We could take
Yeah,
out the
I would.
1990. Just so you know, the original MASC policy said of 1992.
Oh my.
Really?
And I caught that. Yeah, and I caught that one.
That's why we change things from the MASC.
Okay. So yeah, you
Yeah,
went
their
to
policies are guide. All right. so yes,
Hopefully
we
they're
do.
not listening.
All right.
Oh,
Great.
okay. We both did that. Sorry, Matt. Okay.
All right, there you got it. Okay.
Okay.
Now, okay.
So we're down to the definition paragraph. Correct. All right. Any comments on that one? Okay, we'll move on to the reasonable modifications one.
Whoop. Sorry, I was trying to make it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments on that? I think there's a period after act instead of a comma now.
Yep.
That's a very small thing, but
It's there.
grammar.
It's there. I see the period.
Oh, is it? Okay, I
Yeah,
saw a comma.
I see it. Yep. I see. Yeah, the comma was deleted.
Great. Okay. All right, so on to communications.
Mm-hmm.
We do not do a good job at that, for the record. As a district, we need to. It's part of our improving communications. But we can get better. Is everyone okay with that part?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Brett, you're quiet. Are you still with us?
I know. I was just had that
No,
thought.
no.
I just don't have a ton to contribute
No,
tonight.
it's okay. I didn't mean to call you out. I was just making
Sometimes
sure
that does happen.
still with us because I can't see everybody at the moment. No problem. All right. All right. We're on to auxiliary aids and services. I don't think that changed very much. So, all
No.
right. And the limits of modifications, we just moved that part. Any questions about that part? Okay. Keep going. We're almost done. This is good. It's taken us a whole year to do like 3 policies, but we're getting there. Is just the ADA there? Oh yeah, because it stands for American Disabilities Act. Does the need to be capitalized?
Where are you?
Where are
Malia?
you?
I'm well, you can't see me. I'm where it says under compliance coordinator, the first sentence, second line. It says we crossed out title 2 of,
Yeah.
and then it says the ADA. Does the need to be capitalized?
No. I
No.
don't think
No.
so.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any questions on that section? All right, I think we're done. We'll go look at the last section, but I think it's all legal references. Okay. Okay. And we're not actually the readings that stay on there. I know they're crossed out. I don't think they disappear. I think because we passed it in 11/15, it will say, I had to look at the format in the other dates, but it says something about revised X date, and then when you do this reading, it'll go to first and second reading for this one. I forget how it's worded. It's at the bottom of our other policies.
Yeah, Randy will always do that piece.
Yeah, because it
I can-
definitely, it doesn't get rid of it completely. I mean, it still has first and second reading for this version, and then it'll have the date that we passed the last version.
Yeah,
So there's a record of when it was revised, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, does anyone else have any discussion on this policy, or is it, all right, I'll ask that question. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain, go ahead. Nope.
sorry, I wanted to make sure it was noted that it was also being recommended to change it from pupil services 6437 to a 10 to 1,000 again to a.
Yes, because it oversees both.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
We're creating trends. This is actually probably one of the biggest things our committee is doing, creating these umbrella policies, which is great.
I just want to make sure that people had
yes.
noticed that. That's all. I apologize.
Yes. So we're renumbering as well. Yes. Linda Woodland.
Are we ready for a motion? I'm ready to make one.
I think so. Yes. I was just going to say I'll entertain a motion. Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to recommend to the full school committee adoption of amended policy P1 1020, policy relating to school committee operations, non-discrimination on the basis of disability, former policy 6437.1, policy relating to pupil services, non-discrimination on the basis of disability.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I will take a vote. I'll do a roll call vote. Brett?
Beardmore, yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Laura?
Kirschenbaum, yes.
Linda Longbalil?
Longbalil, yes.
Linda Woodland?
Woodland, yes?
And I vote yes. Gustafson, yes. Okay, good work. All right. So, Jane, will this be able to go on our next agenda for a first reading of this revision?
I can certainly bring that to Randy and Daryl. It's just that, I think she has to get it out first thing in the morning. And she was
it is Thursday night and we finished it. So it would be great.
if she can. Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes.
I will bring it to them.
I would appreciate if it would, because I just feel like we worked really hard on it and we're just trying to get things in line, and then it's documented, and hopefully she can just add it. So I appreciate that. Okay. All right. It is not on our agenda, but while we're in policies, I'm just going to clarify that we have our next item actually is gender neutrality. Actually, let me skip ahead. I'm actually skipping ahead to the gender neutrality for a second. We had a question at our last committee meeting about whether it was first or second reading and whether there were other changes. We didn't have, my understanding is we did not have other changes. And that the attorney Bartulis deemed that was therefore just adding the legal references was therefore a second reading and not a first reading. So my hope is that it will be on our next agenda as a second reading and we can hopefully get it passed. Is it on the agenda as far as you know, Jane?
As far as I know, yes.
For Monday, okay. And hopefully the correct version will get sent out, which I know is not you. It just happens, but okay. It would be great if we could get.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Why do I think we had some changes to language? I could be totally wrong about that. I don't know if other folks have thoughts.
I thought we had like a word, but Jane said that she, I asked if I had a copy, and Jane said that she has already gone through it and there weren't any changes.
Okay, all right,
just
cool.
Citations. But can I request, Jane, if you're able to before Monday, if you could send me the version, the old and the new version, or at least the new version, I would appreciate it. Because
I actually thought I did after you had emailed, but I will double check that. I might be wrong.
It doesn't have to be immediate. It could be Sunday night. Totally fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled up the policy that was, I went to the school committee agenda.
Yes.
And it's pulled that policy, pulled the original one and compared them.
Okay.
And to me, all I saw that changed was the references, but I certainly could have missed something. So I
don't doubt that. I just wanted to have it in front of me in case someone brought it up again, so that I would have the paper in front of me, because I'm a tactile, visual person.
Yeah, I can do that for you.
I would appreciate it. And I know Esma said she is hoping to be with us next week, but since she wasn't at those meetings, I expect I'll probably be discussing them. Okay. I appreciate your help with that.
So I think that we all set with Attorney McAvoy, just so that we can maybe.
Yes. Do we have any other questions for Attorney McAvoy at this point? I think we are. Thank you so much.
If you
for
all ever
coming.
do in the future, I am always happy to hop on. So, don't
We
feel free
appreciate
to,
that.
don't feel shy about asking.
We will.
And,
We will have a new-
diversity and equity is basically what I do. So, I
That is
welcome the
good to
opportunity to
know.
talk to you.
is
Yeah.
We will have a new subcommittee sometime after May 9th or after May 17th. And some of us will probably still be on it. I know you know how that works. And hopefully that they will continue to work with you. So I will make sure to pass that on. Thank you very much for your
All
time.
right. Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. All right. Good work. I'm looking at the
I have
agenda.
no idea. Like, we all waved. He
Did
couldn't
we?
see that.
You can't see
I
it.
know.
I know. It's okay.
I gave wave. What are you guys doing?
Oh,
I'm gonna
Oh,
look
mister.
at the agenda and see if there's anything. This is what I'm gonna do. Is there anything? Number 5 we can't do until the policy passes, so I'm just keeping that on there and not doing anything with it. The holidays is, I think, a bigger discussion, which we have done some good legwork on, but need to have more discussion on. I don't know if there are other things that people felt they wanted to talk about before that are either on the agenda. Well, I'll start with what's on the agenda. Is there anything that you felt pressing that we needed to talk about before we go? No, it won't, Laura. Thank you for your efforts.
Good night,
and
everybody.
time, And
I'm
you're
sorry,
here.
I need to
I
go.
appreciate it.
Good
No,
night.
that's okay. It's getting late.
Yep.
All right.
Thank
Take
you
care.
for your time. Okay, so is there anything else on the agenda that anyone feels pressing to discuss with this committee? Okay, because I am mindful of the time, but also it is our last, maybe our last meeting unless we have a pressing issue. Like if there's another change to that policy, I might try to meet again just to really get it done. I don't know. We'll have to see. Or if we have a special
Yeah, we're
meeting.
so close.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. What? I just
He
want to
said
get
we're
it
so
done.
close. Yeah, let's get it
No,
done.
I just
Yeah,
want to get it
so
done.
close.
We would have last time if not for the whatever. We won't go there. So, okay. So everything else that's on here that as I'm seeing it in my current role is that I think it's a good starting point for the next committee to see the things we talked about, and they may have other thoughts. It might be rearranged. There might be things added, but I think it's a good starting point of kind of where we got and what we have thought about. Is there anything else under new business that people would like to add for future meetings or future consideration or thoughts to the next group? Hopefully most of us will still be here, but okay.
I just want to make sure that, so I put that policy 1000 will be brought back to the subcommittee to make sure it's in
Yes.
alignment with policy 1010. That's
Yes.
all
So
I
we
have
need to
under new
add that.
business.
Yes. So we'll need to add that to the agenda or yes, I'll add that to an agenda or something like that. Yes. Thank you. All right. Okay. Is there any other business that you all wanted to add to the list? I know we still have the idea, which I need to put on there, the idea of we never had any kind of follow-up forum or way to obtain feedback from our community about where things are. And I would like to make sure that gets added because that's tied into broader diversity work. I think if Brendan had stayed, maybe we would have gotten to it, but probably not because honestly, we have so much else going on. But that was connected to bigger discussions, but was just never done. And I think we need to make sure that there's a plan for that going forward to kind of take the pulse of things. And perhaps Superintendent Riley will entertain that as part of a bigger fact-finding mission. But I think it should definitely be on our radar. I don't know, maybe something like means of obtaining feedback from community or something like that. I don't know. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Okay. Is there anything else before we adjourn then? We do not have a next meeting scheduled. If anyone feels we need to have one, I can certainly relay that. But right now we don't because there's a lot of town meetings, there's a school committee meeting, and there are elections on May 9th in all of the towns. So so we don't have one. I don't know that we have anything pressing. If there's something that comes up with this policy that's very minor, I may suggest to Asima that we meet very, very briefly before something. I don't even know when, but but we'll see. I don't expect us to. So
I think that's fine. And I would make a motion to adjourn.
That is
Second.
great. Is there a second?
Sure.
Second.
Second.
I don't know who seconded, but thank you. Jane, also before we adjourn, I will say thank you for stepping in and helping in with Brendan, but then also in his absence. I know you're doing several jobs right now and appreciate your work to help keep us going forward so we could continue our work.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to continue working with this committee. So thank you very much.
And I've enjoyed working with you all since, I don't know what will happen in the next couple weeks, but.
And you know that the new director of SEL and equity will be probably on when we start our next meetings.
Yes.
So,
I've read that.
Yeah.
This committee did not exist when he was here the first time. So I know nothing of his, actually, we never actually met him. I think he came to one meeting the first time he was here. So we never actually met him as a school committee, really.
Well, I think that it's going to be great. You're going to be it's going to be great work that we can do together.
So I'll look forward to that. Hopefully I will still be with you all. So, and Linda will be, so carry on. All right. So we need to vote to adjourn. Linda Woodland.
Woodland, yes.
Linda Longbelial.
Longbelial, yes.
Brett.
Beardmore, yes.
Krista.
Bennett, yes.
And Gustafson, yes. Thank you all. It turned into a very productive year. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for really taking this on this month, Malia. Really, you've done a great job.
Thank you. I try.
Yes, and I'm feeling good about this election.
That's good.
I saw Linda out there waving a sign.
I think we're still taping. Let's let Ed know that he can stop.
Yo, you can stop recording.
Okay,
Yes,
Ed, you can
sorry,
stop.
Ed. Thank you, Ed, for your help.